In part 1, watch it if you can, I took a look at the strange disappearance of the mysterious Vanishing Battalion of World War I, a battalion of troops which it was claimed were abducted by aliens. In this second video, I will take a look at some more bizarre vanishings, this time of whole towns of villages. What is going on? Why are so many people becoming lost? Let's take a look. Welcome to IF, videos on history, mystery, and the strange. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video again. Let's start out in Irkheimer, a town in the state of Iowa that seemingly evaporated overnight. The history of this small rural town says that by all accounts it was doing well, a thriving mid-American town that was until some time in 1928. This was when aerial surveys were carried out and pictures the plane snapped showed that the town was deserted, the streets dirty and not maintained, the fields overgrown and unattended. This triggered questions obviously, and when discussing the strange fate of the disappearing Irkheimerans, a man came forward with a strange story. He told how he had been traveling the area and passed through the town, stopping at a gas station to fill his car. He left the money for his gas on the counter and drove away after receiving his fill up. It was then that he noticed a needle firmly planted on empty. He had been conned, paying for the gas that no one pumped. He spun the car around and angrily headed back to the gas station. This is when things become even stranger. The man reported that it was impossible for him to reach the filling station, and it seemed to forever remain in the distance no matter how fast or far he drove. Eventually he ran out of the little gas he had left in his tank and decided to walk, yet he could still not reach the town and the station at which he had stopped. Finally the man gave up, returned to his vehicle and awaited passing motorist who he would stop and ask for help. This motorist was not alone in his strange experience. Other people passing through the town reported the previously busy town was definitely abandoned. These stories were then investigated, and those that managed to get to the town discovered rows and rows of houses empty, and there were no signs of the people or any recent activity. The houses looked as if one day families just walked away, leaving everything as if it was their final day on Earth. The media caught wind of the vanishings, and local newspapers ran the story. The Clarion Sun Telegraph reported the incident, but it was buried by massive news of the stock market crash of 1929. More and more reports of what happened in the town surfaced. It was said that people witnessed the town actually evaporating into thin air, this as if being absorbed into some other dimension, or like the Norfolks in part 1, could they have been taken by some kind of cloaked UFO? This idea of a cloud-like UFO gets a small boost with a story from 1932. A large dust bowl was hitting the area and some people caught out in it headed to the town in the hope of finding supplies. What they found was confusing. The story, which was recorded on the Strange State website, reads as follows. Imagine their surprise when they were unable to mount the steps leading to the store. Their feet each time passing through the lowermost step as though through a cloud. Convinced that this was some sort of plot to prevent outsiders from shopping at the store, they attempted to scale the steps using an old board found nearby. Imagine their surprise when their feet passed through the board and the steps as easily as a potato passing through the smoke of a campfire. Terrified, the men ran back to their nomadic camp and reported what they had seen, only to be accused of spending the group's hard-gotten money on illegal hooch rather than on beans and bacon. But they displayed the money and challenged others in the camp to try the same experiment. A group of a dozen men, some armed, went back to the general store and, lo and behold, had the same eerie experience. The caravan covered its fires and decamped with all deliberate speed, but the story quickly circulated and soon a group of state police were ordered to investigate the phenomenon. They went to Irkheimer Sheriff's office to converse and otherwise hobnob with their brother law enforcement officials. The group's leader approached the office of this guardian of the peace and attempted to knock on the door, only to see his hand pass through the thick oak as though it were merely painted steam. Their report began the gradual decline of Irkheimer. It became less substantial with every passing day, and passers-by noted the absence of children playing and the growing seediness of the houses and barns. Then on May 7, 1932, Phineas Bunth, a Huguenot immigrant farmer, passed by at dawn with his cargo of produce, and what, to his wondering eyes, did appear but nothing. Where the town had stood were only abandoned fields and long-rotted fences. A cast-iron bathtub used long ago as a watering trough for livestock sat alone in the field of weeds, the sole relic of human presence. Irkheimer was no more. Many years later, a gypsy caravan camped on the site but left abruptly. The ataman of the group, Bax Tallow, told a Roma-friendly neighbouring city councilman that the place was saturated with the tears of the dispossessed and the despair of those who had never borne names. In latter years, people would begin to move into the region and find that, indeed, there was a town there that had grown weed-choked and feral, crumbling away into nothingness. It remains unknown just where all of the people of this alleged town went, or even if it ever really existed in the first place, and remains a strange historical oddity and unconfirmed mystery. This disappearance is not an isolated incident. The town of Ashley in the US state of Kansas was a small farming community populated by about 700 persons. According to records from the United States Geological Survey, on August 16, 1952, the area was hit by a huge earthquake that measured a whopping 7.9 on the Richter scale. The remoteness of the small town of Ashley meant most did not think about it at the time of the quake, but when investigators did finally get around to checking on the people and the town, they found that oddly there was no one there. The clues of a disaster were present from the time the investigators first arrived. There was a large fissure in the ground and it was belching flame and smoke, measuring 1,000 yards in length and approximately 500 yards in width. Upon passing the tear in the ground, they found the town empty. Not a single soul could be located. Even animals had seemingly evaporated into thin air. A 12-day intensive search ensued, yet no traces of any of the townfolk were found. It seemed that everyone had simply dematerialized, or maybe, somehow, they had all been swallowed by the massive quake. The search was stopped when seismic activity resumed in the area. Waiting for the quakes to stop before returning to the town, the investigators were shocked to find out that once this activity had finished, the large flaming cavity in the ground had also disappeared. As with the vanishing people of Irkheimer and the soldiers of the Gallipoli campaign, a wide range of odd phenomena was said to have happened days and weeks before the people would be lost. Allegedly, on August 8th, reports were made by a local man called Gabriel Jonathan, in which he said that he had spotted a small black opening in the sky. Shortly after this, police received many calls reporting the same unknown opening in the heavens. A police officer from the nearby town of Hayes, A1 Alan Mace, went to investigate, after which he would radio in to claim that he had been headed down the only road towards Ashley, but somehow found himself back in the town of Hayes, despite the fact he had not turned around. This being very similar to the man who attempted to get gas at the start of this mystery. Other police officers attempted to solve the mystery, and they too encountered the same strange phenomenon, being turned around and unable to reach the town. This was not the only bizarre thing happening at that time. Many atmospheric anomalies were reported. Also, people were mysteriously vanishing without a trace. Strange atmospheric events tied to disappearances. Could this be alien craft disguised as clouds? Could they be taking people? If so, for what purpose? There were yet more weirder goings-on, with reports that the town was in total darkness, as if the sun had never risen. Perhaps even stranger still were the tales that the townsfolk were having conversations with family members who had long been dead. Allegedly, a woman named Phoebe Danowelski claimed that her daughter was speaking with her dead father. The man had passed more than 3 years earlier, and she described how the girl would keep trying to leave with her father, the dead man asking the girl to join them. Police switchboards would continue to be lit by hundreds of calls over the next days, this culminating on August 12, 1952, when it is said the children in the town had spontaneously vanished in the middle of the night. A caller named Scott Luntz claimed that there was a fire in the distance that was described as bright red and orange that seemed to extend high into the sky. Fire in the sky, a phrase made famous by the abductee Travis Walton. Then on the morning of August 14th, 1952, frantic local man Benjamin Endicott called local police. The man was in a state of utter uncontrolled panic, claiming that a vast fire in the sky had turned night to day. So was this the work of aliens or something more paranormal? Were these people unfortunate victims of a natural disaster? A number of mundane theories have been proposed as answers to these questions. One is that the homes are abandoned movie sets, or a site left abandoned after a bout of radion or carbon monoxide poisoning. Today, these towns and houses are left rotting away, lost to the tides of history, and the stories tied to the locations have passed into urban legend, spooky tales to stir the imagination. So what do you think? Aliens? Ghosts? Or Mother Nature? Or maybe just overactive minds and hard times? What made these people vanish? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.